Okay, so here it is without clone stamp. Here it is with clone stamp. I have the outside shape I want. Now I've got to clean up in here. You can see how magical clone stamp is as a retouching tool. Really helping to bring things together. Now I've got to work on this bottom part. So first thing I'm going to do is do levels adjustments. What layer am I on? There we go. And I haven't done the color yet, but that is coming. Levels adjustments come first because that's lighting. I have a lot of layers put together here. And it's not just about making things dark and light. Sometimes it's about making them less contrasted. That's what these output levels are about. Limiting how strong they are. Okay, once I think I've got that pretty close, now I'm going to start playing with the color balance. And this is very warm, has a lot of red in it, so I'm going to bring some cyan into it and some blue. Oh, I did it a little too fast. Aha, that works well. Do it with the other one. So color balance, wonderful tool, really makes a difference. Ignore it at your peril. And there's a lot of magenta in these otter's feet, so I'm going to play that down a little bit. Looks like there's a little bit that I missed on that I need to erase. I want to do that before I get into clone stamping. Have a nice clean profile, clean silhouette. And then I can use a softer edge eraser and start to transition these hard edges before I go to clone stamping too. I don't know how much overlap I have. Probably not a whole lot. So I'm just going to soften the edges I know are safe to soften. And then I can go to a lower opacity eraser if I want and blend them that way. So there's a lot you can do before you have to go to clone stamp. The problem with clone stamp is it tends to soften everything. So you don't really want to use it unless you have to. But I think I'm at that point. All right. I think I saved my progress there. And now just the color correction and a little bit of erasing and blending help those legs a lot. Now clone stamp will finish them off. Wish I didn't have so much area that doesn't have clear reference. But you don't usually see lizards walking upright. So it's a good cultural lesson. If I ever notice any, I'll make sure to take a nice picture. Okay, I'm still using a pretty broad clone stamp brush. And I can feel safe doing that because I know it's all on its own layer. I'm not losing any of the material underneath. But as I start to get more detail, I'll go to more opacity and a slightly smaller brush as I have to really get these anatomy structures to to be more believable. It even goes to like this back arm, putting a little bit of that scale texture on it. Remember, I moved my clone stamp behind my hands, and that will be the last thing I work on. Just working with the color balance and the levels of those hands. And then that should complete it. And I gave myself the option for a tail. I had a tail in my sketch. I could still add one on. It would just be another composited component. But I'll get everything ready I can before that. And that might be something I do to improve my project. And our next assignment, assignment 3, gives you the opportunity to use what you've been practicing to really improve both assignments 1 and 2. So that will be the improvement I add to this. I'll really make that tail clear. Okay, I'm looking at my edges now. And especially my lighting. I haven't played with color too much. And so this is kind of what I like to do at this point. Save it. I've got the clone stamp working through. Clone stamp is really pretty much everywhere on my artwork. So it runs across the entirety of the piece. And now, what if I play with the levels and the color balance of the clone stamping itself? Now, the levels I'm pretty confident with, but the color balance could really be interesting. So if I take my clone stamp layer and I say Adjustments Color Balance, what happens if I shift all those clone stamps more red, or more cyan, more green, or more magenta, more yellow? Oh, the yellow is actually kind of nice in the belly there. Makes it a little bit more unified. Then I might go to Highlights, add a little bit more. Go to Shadows, maybe play it down a little bit. So that little adjustment just helped kind of bring everything together in a lighting and color way that makes sense. All right, so my last step, let's just go ahead and finish this off. I'm going to take these arms that are up above, and since they're two separate ones on two separate layers, but I want to treat them together, I'm going to select both those layers, and I'm going to hit Command E, which is the shortcut for merging layers together. So now just with Command E, they're both on the same layer. They're still in a layer group on their own, but that allows me to adjust them together. They were from the same photo. Makes sense that their lighting should be matched. So I can play with their levels. Slightly deeper midtones. Limit their highlights a little bit, which are a little bright. Yeah, about like that could work. And then play with their color as well. There's no such thing as neutral gray or neutral white in fully rendered images. They always have some color content to them. Right, and then I can dodge and burn them. So especially here, this looks far too bright in the background there. So I'm going to take a really large, soft-edged burn tool, and in the midtones, just going to knock it back. Even the claw, knock that back a little bit so it feels in the background. Here, I put a little bit more shadow underneath it. Deepen the shadows at the back there. And then I'm also going to, it's good to work both sides, use the dodge tool just on the highlights, just in this case, nice and big, and hit some of these highlights, not that strong though, at a lower strength, about 10%. Kind of bring out that is in fact the hand and it's catching light on top of everything. I don't think I need it so much in the back. And then the claws, I can bring those out a little bit. Now on my clone stamp layer, I can do the same thing. I can just hit it one more time with a little bit of dodge where I think it needs some brightness along this edge. Little spots. And that, of course, will deepen the contrast with my shadows. All right. So now I've got this huge space. Remember, I'm working on an image that is the size of a desk, 30 by 40 inches by 350. I don't need all that space. I might leave myself some space using the crop tool to add a tail. So how about I do that? Hit return, group it all up. I check to make sure there's no debris left anywhere. I think there was a little bit of debris in my arms layer, just right there. Let me erase that. And it looks a little soft in some places. Little things can be improved. The color here, I can put a little bit more magenta into that and trim that down a bit better. Just a bit of magenta back into it. All right. And then if I see some place that really needs to be burned, I first try to do it in the clone stamp layer. Sure enough, that will work here. I want to burn behind where that arm is, so that really shows off. As a setting, burn in the creases of the joints, like the armpits, around the pecs, at the groin, at the knees. Okay. And then the last bit, this fur feels a little too sharp on this edge, so I'm going to go to that, and I'm going to take my eraser and make it a much lower opacity, 0% hardness, and just knock that back a little bit so that fur feels a little bit more transparent at that edge, as it should be. And there's something here I don't like. That can just be erased. I don't even need to know what layer it's from. I can just find it with that auto select feature. Okay, last thing. If I turn on my white background, you'll see I have some haziness from my clone stamp tool. I also have a little bit more debris on the arms. These are the things we want to clean up before we're done if we have time. 100% for the eraser. Just get that stuff out of there. A little bit of softness is okay. Little debris is flying though, not so good. All right, here's my trick. How do I cut this out from the clone stamp layer, especially where it's soft? By the way, I can also erase from the clone stamp layer. If I overdid it someplace, kind of like there, and softened it too much. But usually you have a good reason for erasing what you did in clone stamp. Yep, because I'm covering up something. Then you can go back in and clone stamp some more if needed.